Hey up, boys and girls. How is it all going? Lockdown 2 litre, or whatever they call it. I'm just looking over the road. There's I'm just outside my house. There's a guy that lives in a flat opposite, and he's constantly looking out his window, and he's like, I think he just thinks I'm some proper weirdo that goes in his car to talk to himself. He must know I live alone, because I'm the only person that ever goes in and out the house. But yeah, he must think what's going on. Anyway, cheers, and I think it's legal to come out your house in lockdown, isn't it, and just sit in your car. This car of mine has just done no miles at all because of the situation that we're in. Anyway, it is how it is, and we'll be out of it very soon, I am very sure. I have got notes galore, even on the back, and here as well. Right, let's crack on. It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you. I have obviously I've actually been really flat out busy, which has been a nightmare, just admin wise, and pretty busy with work actually. I went through like a stage of just everything being condensed into one, so I've not been able to get any filming done or anything like that. So I do apologise, because there's people actually asking what's happening and who you're interviewing and people like that. So yeah, I do apologise, but anyway, it's good to have a little chat. Let's try and review and preview Snetterton and Brands Hatch respectively. Obviously the championships are now coming to a head, the last round at Brands Hatch coming up this weekend. So I think we should go straight into it. I've just put something on Instagram. Oh, and I'm flat out here, just people messaging me. Anyway, I said I would ring him at a certain time, and I'm going to. So let's give this man a ring. Because this is about somebody in particular and not a championship person.
Good afternoon, Simon Hill, purveyor of finest flying pigs. How may I help you?
Well, there you go. He needs no introduction. On the phone is Simon Hill, better known as Jake Hill's dad, long time suffering dad. How are you, Si? You well, lad?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I can't believe we're going into the final race of this very strange year, but at least for us, it's a home circuit, so not sleep in my own bed and all that, which would be nice.
Yeah, it's a bit weird actually, because I've just had the call sheet through from ITV, and there's a lot of people within a certain distance who are going to be staying at home. So obviously I live miles away, but it'll be a weird one, this, because this will be the first one we've done in proper lockdown, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. I saw an email from the team that was basically obviously explaining that, you know, there was no way that people could go unless they were part of the team, and that even for the teams they had to get dispensation to the hotels and things like that to let them know that they were there as, you know, working rather than you know, for leisure purposes, because I'm sure all the local hotels would be used to having all kinds of people staying whenever there's a big race on. So yeah, very, very strange times, but glad that it looks like we'll be able to finish the season.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the start of the year obviously was delayed, and everyone knows all about that. And then I didn't know if it'd go ahead, but I thought if football goes ahead and that's elite, then we should be okay, because we've been elite sport all the way through. Was that your thoughts on it?
Yeah, very much so. I think it's ironic as well that, you know, one of the frustrations for all of us has been, you know, the fact that we can't have fans and sponsors, guests, and all the people that we normally would have. As you know, from when you were driving, usually on a touring car race day, as a driver or as a team, you're running around with loads of guests there, keeping them happy, and that's kind of been my job over a race weekend since Jake started racing, but especially in touring cars. But yeah, the fact that the elite sport bit has actually saved us from not having to stop in this instance, even though earlier in the year it stopped us from being able to go on. But yeah, the elite thing is weird. I think we all agree that it's really strange when you've got a major event like British GTs that we've just seen the conclusion of. Props to Rob Collard, by the way, for winning that. Really pleased for him. One for the old boys. But yeah, so they're just, you know, that's a massive championship as well, and that hadn't been classed, so that was allowing people in. Obviously not this weekend, but yeah, very strange times, mate. But we've all, as a touring car family, I think everybody's pulled together superbly.
They've done a good job, haven't they? I've got to admit, from my side of things with ITV, and I'll be dead I'll be really, out there with you, because you've worked for ITV Sport, doing the job I do now. But they have been very good, and I'll be honest, sometimes I don't get on with the corporation over different things contractually and stuff like that. But they have been nothing short of amazing how they've put that show together, because I remember they did like a little meeting, at the beginning of the show, like on a Sunday morning. At the very first one we did at Donington, I think was round one, wasn't it? They said, it is this and it's that, and I'm sorry if we're being really clinical, and masks and this and that, and they were really hard work, temperature checks, and it wasn't hard work, but just to get the show on the road. And then a guy called Lewis, who's one of the directors, said, listen guys, we have got to show that we can put this this whole circus on the road if we go into another lockdown. And I remember him saying it, and I thought, yeah, whatever, mate, I'm sure that won't happen again. But there you go. So, they've done a great job to get this back on, and Toker as well, like you rightly say. Yeah, and it's very strange. I mean, we see, obviously, you guys, we see you on the TV. I'm so used to seeing you and Louise and Steve and everyone in the actual paddock and coming and chatting. And obviously, part of the job, as I know from when I used to be involved, is having that ability to go up to, what's going on, lad? Why is that happening? What's happening? Speaking to the teams and the drivers and getting that little info. It's really difficult to do that when you can't just wander in and out of the garages or up and down the pit lane or whatever it might be. But the fact that you guys have been able to still get all the info and stay on top of it, and still, to be honest, I get home on a Sunday night, like I'm sure a lot of people involved in the series will do, and however far I've driven and however knackered I might be, I'll still make a point of watching, the coverage. And I've got to say, obviously I'm a little bit biased because I know a lot of the fabulous people at ITV, but the coverage has been nothing short of exceptional, despite the challenges put in place, both from a technical point of view and from a presenting point of view, not being able to be involved. Even things like dear old Louise, when she's sitting there having to sort of do these remote interviews, and I've seen, obviously, fortunately, Jake's been in the top 3 a few times this year, so I've seen him go into the little room and they stand there and they make sure they look all smart and everything. But, it still comes across really, really well. And I think our amazing fan base, and, there's be people that are watching this now that are massive, massive fans of touring cars, and thank you so much to everybody for all the support you've shown. The drivers, not just Jake, obviously I'm biased, but everyone, every driver, every team, and the support races. And a lot of it's been down to the fact that you guys have kept everybody involved and made us all feel, that it's a bit normal, even when it's not. Yeah. Oh, no, do you know what, mate? I really appreciate that. And I second that, because everyone's been great. And I will actually say, and you just reminded me, I think one of the unsung heroes, mate, of the ITV camp has actually been Louise Goodman, because Louise single-handedly, mate, got so many WhatsApp groups together with all the championship administrators of the different series, support, the doctors, Dr. Trafford. If we needed to know about an accident or whether the driver was okay, there'd be a WhatsApp group for that. There'd be a WhatsApp group for Ginettas, for me and Richard, and for Louise to interview the drivers and the championship coordinator. Louise Goodman single-handedly said she sorted all that out, and bang, 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 every weekend we turn up and we know we're going to get information, or if she needs someone. It's been a colossal team effort from our side and from your side as well, drivers and teams and management. But I mean, I've been really impressed with Louise. She's an absolute star anyway. But I thought that was really
you
good
forget
stuff.
Just with people like Louise, just the level of professionalism that she's had throughout her career. In terms of when I first met Louise, when she first came and did stuff for ITV Sport, ITV was still covering Formula One. In 2008, it was the last year that they had the contract. So her and Ted Kravitz both were involved in touring cars a little bit that year. I think would you still been driving them?
Yeah,
you, Paul,
I remember Ted being there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always remember the first time I met them. We were staying in one of the hotels up in Croft, and everyone's having a drink in a bar or a bite to eat, and I sat next to her, and I think I said something to her like, "I really like the way you use things, because you're not a proper journalist." And what I actually meant was that you don't come across as too, it's very relaxed and very officious. But when I said it, when you say something, and as soon as you say it, you go, and she sort of gave me this look, and then she just ripped me to pieces constantly throughout the next 2 years. And I'm like, oh,
hey,
God.
Si, I've never had that before. I've never walked away from any questions thinking, why did I ask that?
Yeah, how's Grandad?
I was only watching that the other day. Oh, mate. Hey, listen, on that note, mate, and you said about the old boys, weird actually, because I seen Jake at Goodwood, and he come up to me and he went, "Mate, I've not seen you for a year." He'd not seen me for a year. How weird is that? It's nuts.
Yeah. Like, there's people that we've, I said earlier that I used the term family, and that's exactly what it is, not just touring cars, but motorsport as a whole. We've seen it recently with terrible accident to Colin Turner in the Walter Hayes, where instantly everybody's there like, what can we do to try and help and support one of our own? Yeah. I know it's a terrible thing, but whether it's something as serious as that or something more just about actually everybody just wanting to sort of be involved with each other and give, whether it's on socials or whatever it might be, just support. And it's, there's been a big push, and it's slightly off topic, big push for, giving everyone support in terms of the mental health, struggling with all kinds of things. And one of the things that I've noticed is just how much genuine concern and support has been for everybody in the industry from each other to make sure everyone's okay. You've been the forefront of that as well, mate. So, well done for being the top bloke that you always are. But a lot of people have been having a tough time and have been sort of had a digital virtual arm put around their shoulder, as it were, by the community,
That's very true, that, and you talk about Colin, because I was going to say something at the end of this show about Colin. I'm glad you brought it up. So Colin Turner in the Walter Hayes Trophy had a horrendous accident. He's had to have a double amputee of his limbs, and it is a nightmare, mate. I mean, I've spoken to him online because there's like a virtual room set up for him, and I mean, that guy's will and determination is very much like Billy Monger's, but he's a 70-year-old man, and the people that have come to his aid already, and it's just astounding, mate. And you're dead right about motorsport. We are a family, and what people forget is I have friends from school who I've had from this age of 8 years, and I know you guys probably as well, if not better, because I spend my life with people like yourself.
Yeah,
and that is exactly.
Sorry about that, mate.
well, that's what it is, though, isn't it? These people are, they're our family, and we look after our own, full stop, and it is great to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's and just going back to the sort of the touring car stuff a little bit. We've all had a really strange year, obviously, and there's been a real sense of everybody understanding each organisation or drivers or sponsors or partners' individual circumstances. So there's obviously been situations like, with PowerMax deciding to step away and then coming back with this really innovative, I think is probably the word I'd use, way of doing things, with having different drivers in every week. And that's been a great initiative, giving people an opportunity to do touring cars in a good car with a good team that wouldn't have perhaps ordinarily done that. Yeah. And then we've had, the situation with Andrew Jordan stepping away, which is a great shame. Guy that, for me, probably could have been challenging, definitely would have been challenging for the championship this year if he'd been able to do it. And then, obviously, all of us, every single driver, every single team, every single organisation has had to really work extra hard to make sure that everyone who's been involved in the financial side of it, the funding, is able to get as much out of it as they possibly can. And it's been amazing. We did something really small, but it was amazing that the response that we got from it back when the lockdown first started. There's a fantastic organisation, fantastic group of people called BTCC Blueprints.
Oh yeah,
you probably know, Paul, that they do loads of stuff.
Done stuff for me,
and
guys.
They have some really cool stuff, whether it's stickers and all sorts of bits and pieces. And I was thinking, everyone's stuck at home in lockdown. When the first lockdown happened, nobody really knew what to do, how to sort of operate it. And we had all these great people that we'd done these deals with at the start of the year to get involved. And part of that was obviously, of course, coming along, hospitality, seeing the races. Jake doing stuff with him, what have you, just simply wasn't possible. And I spoke to the guys at BTC Blueprints, and then we basically got a load of Jake's car, like they do the sort of the side view of the cars for each driver each year. Yeah. And got the mugs sent out to each of the sponsors, and the film Le Mans, Steve McQueen's film Le Mans.
Yes.
There's a fantastic line in it which says, "Racing is life, everything before and after is just waiting." And so I got a little picture of that, and because we're just waiting, at that point we didn't know if we were going to go racing, and said, while we're waiting, have a brew and think of when we go racing with Jake. Thanks for your support. And, you know, it's a few mugs. You know, it wasn't a huge thing. But what it did is it just reached out to everyone just to say, just thinking of you, just something, not just a tweet or whatever, which is important. And the response was amazing. You know, it was something really small, but people really appreciate the fact that you know, they're being thought of. They're not just like, oh, well, you know, we can't get you along, so we'll just put a couple of mentions on Twitter and, you know, send you a press release. It's just something daft like that. And sometimes that's what you need to do, is just make people feel a little bit more valued, you know?
Yeah, and I'm with you, mate, because I do feel like touring car fans are very much, they're just different from anyone else. They're not massively tribal, but if they're in your corner, they're in your corner, and it's an escape for a lot of people, mate, from normal life. Yeah. And that's the same for us, really. If it's a hobby, or it's like Jake's, you know, it's his profession, it's still an escape. You know, as soon as you get in that car and go, it's that's the thing. And I was going to ask you, actually, what's it been? This year has been quite a topsy-turvy year. Started terribly, and then it's been amazing. The podiums you've had, he's been, you know, I'm not even going to ask how proud you are of him, but, you know, he's watched you race. You were a fantastic racer in your day. I remember watching you, mate, in Lotus Elise and things like that. You were a winner, mate. And, you know, a lot of people might not know that. You were a winner and a fast person as well. But how difficult has it been to be involved in the championship when you're in a great car, great position, but things go against you? It was so difficult.
Well, I think, you know, there was no getting away. When you come off the back of a year like the guys had last year, with Rory winning the Independents and winning the Jack Sears, and the team winning the Independents Championship, both Rory and Sam Tordoff won races. The car, obviously, as you know, has been probably one of the best, if not the best, front-wheel drive cars in the last 5 years. If you took every year and stacked it up consistently, it's been the little FK2. It's been the absolute business. Yeah. So obviously, you came into the season with proven team. You know, knows the team anyway, because obviously we're working with the sister team at Trade Price Cars in the Audis. He's known Sean. Sean has been involved with Jake's career in one way, shape, or form, going back to 2011 when he let him have a run in the little Golf, did some shakedown in the Golf that they were racing at the time. So we came into it with very high hopes. You know, Jake was very bullish. He said, look, I'm really confident we can have a go at the Independents this year and do reasonably well overall. And obviously we then had the first 2 race weekends, which were a real kick in the teeth, things that were completely out of our hands. There were, you know, 3 engine failures in 6 races and 2 punctures. So we only scored 6 points in the first 6 races. And I think he was 25th in the championship overall. And then I just said to him, just think like Andrew Jordan. You know, he had that terrible weekend last year where he ended up with 0 points at Donington after that big shunt where he got turned around in the first race, and came back and was within 2 points to win the championship. Now, that was always going to be a bit of a tall order to try and get that. But what it did show is how hard the team worked straight away to resolve the problem, working with Swindon, the engine suppliers, and obviously working with their own data that they had. But also what really impressed me about Jake was at no point did he sit there and sort of feel sorry for himself and like, oh, that's it, what's the point kind of thing, because the series is done. He's like, okay, roll his sleeves up, got on with it. Next time out, we were at Alton Park. Sorry, we were at Alton Park, weren't we? Yes, the first 2 of Brands and Donington, or Donington and Brands. Alton Park, and got a podium in the first race. A little bit fortuitous. Poor old Josh Cook got excluded, which was a bit harsh, but that's what it is. It happens sometimes. It's happened to us. It happens to people. And that was it. And, you know, we've had, I think, 5 podiums since then, an independent win. And the real stat for me is that in the last 18 races, he scored points in 17 of them. And we're now 8th overall and 5th in the independents. And also the other one that's been really pleasing is the qualifying. You know, 4th in the Wingfoot Award for best qualifier, with a shout of maybe getting 3rd if we do well at Brands. So, yeah, he couldn't have really done more with what we've had since then. But, you know, it's been really a testament to the team, how hard they've worked and how everyone's pulled together. But that's also helped with, we've had some amazing partners who've stuck with us and stayed with what they said they were going to do at the start of the year. And that's, we've kind of, Jake's done all the work, repaid them with some results, which has been great. And, you know, to go into the final race weekend with a pretty good shout of finishing in top 10. I mean, actually, when you look at the points, you probably had a look at them, but everyone focuses quite rightly on the top 4. for the championship. But if you look at 7th to 11th, they're covered by like 5 points, something like that.
I was going to say that, yeah.
And so we could be 7th, we could be 11th, or anywhere in between. But to be honest, anywhere in there after the start we had is going to be pretty cool, really. But yeah, it's been tough, but at the same time, it's, quitters never win and winners never quit kind of cliche is true, isn't it? You just got to get your head down, get on with it.
Yeah, and he's one of the best for that, isn't he, Si? Well, listen, mate, I've got a bit of time left, but quickly, what is going to happen next year, mate? What can you do? What is the situation?
So, fantastic news. We've got 2 or 3 of our partners. 3 of our partners have already agreed to be involved at the same level as this year.
Great.
So that's a great start. We've
Brilliant.
still a little bit of work to do.
Yeah.
Quite a long way down the road in finalising Jake's contract for next year. That's, I'd say, almost done, but not quite.
Yeah.
And the other thing is he's going to be doing, hopefully, an awful lot of historic and classic stuff again after his funny had a Goodwood in that little skyline and some of the other things he's done. He's good at that kind of stuff. This is probably better than a touring car. Don't tell him that. Did anyone hear? Mate, it's good talking to you, and we'll look forward to next year. We can properly see you. But well done for a brilliant year this year in looking after everyone.
Oh, mate, thank you. And listen, send my best to everyone, all the family at home, mate. I know it's a family thing, and I'm sure Jake is very proud of his dad, mate, and you've done a great job with him. He's fantastic, and we all want to see him back out there. So, yeah, thank you, Si.
Pleasure, mate. I'll go back to selling some flying pigs and rocking horse tears. That's what we do.
Top man. Later, mate. Have a good one, mate. Bye. What a lad. Love that. That went a bit longer than I said it would do to him. I just wanted to start with Jake because he was someone that we really thought would be right at the forefront of the championship, but obviously those problems he had with the engines and stuff, and the electronics or whatever, has hindered him a bit. But I think, reading between the lines and knowing what I know, he has done amazing with that car, because I am sure that they're still carrying something there that they've had to manage. So he has done a great job, and he deserves more than a lot of people in British touring cars to still be in that championship. And whatever he does next year, I'll be loving it if he's still around. So yeah. Good stuff from Si. Very interesting, wasn't it? And he was quite nice to me as well, wasn't he? What a guy. Nice. Right then, light is fading fast. Just got myself another coffee. Sorry if the camera's moved around a bit. I'll have to put the light on outside in my drive, but that's not going to do anything. Right, okay. Next person to speak to about Snetterton actually was quite an interesting one for Jack Goff, because he was so fast, and then he had a massive shunt. So let's give the boy a ring. I think he might be in Sainsbury's. Let me just check. Oh,
Sainsbury's.
Hello, Jack Goff. You're being recorded, just so you don't put yourself into any turbulent air. What were you in a Premier Inn? Did you say you working?
Yeah, exactly, mate. So I'm in a Premier Inn, which is obviously very exciting usually. But obviously in lockdown, I'm in my room today. So the highlight of my day, as you well know, is to go to Sainsbury's and buy my dinner for the night.
Hey, I've worked enough with you, mate, and I know it is like lockdown when you work with me. It's like lockdown, isn't it? Like you're in my bubble, and that's it. It's game over for you, and you have to go and buy some washing up stuff that gets the skids out my boxers.
No, they were my boxers that you borrowed.
They were your boxers. Yeah, I forgot. Sorry, mate. Hey, but no, to be fair, they were fresh when I give you them back.
I mean, yeah, they went straight to the bin. But apart from that, they were lovely. They were really nicely hand cleaned, which, by the way, I do still have the video of, if anybody wants to see it. Of you washing them in the sink. I think it was a Premier Inn as well.
It was. I think they were in a sink, weren't they? And then I think it's in the iCloud, mate, so we'll just leave it there if that's all right.
Leave it up in the cloud, yeah.
Like the rest of my life that no one knows about. What? Listen, my man, I know you're busy, mate, so I won't keep you 5, but it's just been a weird, forget about the pandemic, it's just been a difficult year, isn't it? I mean, I was hoping and praying you were going to get a massive result at Brands GP, And from there, it just seems like you've really struggled. And then I seen at Snet, I was watching the timing screens and I was like, oh my word, you're like 2/10 off the fastest lap. And then next thing, you're climbing out of a car that's like half intact. It's been hard work, innit, mate?
The emotional roller coaster of motorsport in general, but definitely the BTCC. Our target this year, we're realistic, and we realise that we probably weren't going to be fast enough to be fighting for podiums, things like that, on outright pace. So our outlook on race weekends was to go into it almost in reverse of what I've been used to, maybe in like the Honda days and things like that, where that was to qualify in pole position, try and win the first race, do as well as you can in the second race, and the third race, you're trying to stay in the points. And this year, what we're sort of aiming for was the reverse grid race. So race qualifying, everybody at Team Hard, like we all, even Tony, the boss, we know that qualifying isn't our strong point, which is really weird for me, because in the Honda, that was my massive strong point. So it's almost flipped around, and we look at it like, right, okay, we can't qualify probably in the top 7 or 8, even top 10 at the minute. But if we can get top 15 in quali, that's brilliant. We can then work to try and get into the reverse grid draw for race 3. And obviously, if all things go well, we get pulled out. Happy days, and then we can put on a bit of a show. And like you mentioned, that's sort of what happened almost at Brands GP. We got ourselves into a position in race 2 where we came, I think it was 9th. It was pretty good. Weird race because everyone was overheating and blowing things up, and we were just sort of not cruising, but short shifting, looking after engines and trying to manage temps and that sort of things. And we sort of almost got pole. We got drawn out as P2, which was great. And then it lasted to turn 2, which wasn't part of the plan. And I got hit from behind, and that pushed me into somebody else, and that then person came back onto the track and hit me the other side. And it's just close racing. You know what it's like. You've been involved in it yourself, and unfortunately, we didn't get past the first lap, so we couldn't really sort of put on a show for our sponsors. But it's one of those.
Talking of sponsors, then, Jack, is it really the hardest it's ever been, or are you now starting to come to the forefront because you are one of the people that works so hard to give your sponsors coverage and to keep them involved? Sometimes when I've had sponsors, I sometimes feel I've not done enough, but I just think that you do so much that you're in a good position. Is that right, or is that wrong? Can you not rely on that?
Mate, it's difficult. It really is. We've had a few tricky years in the B word, the Brexit word. We've had that to deal with, and we thought, right, we're just getting through that now. And then obviously the global pandemic came about as well, and we the deals were almost done by that point. It was March time. We were at Media Day. It was good to go, and I'm very, very fortunate that my loyal sponsors and the team's partners, things like that, buy us this year.
Oh, right, okay.
It's not been easy. Toka have done an amazing job to even get the show on the road. The difficult thing is we haven't been able to have guests, and that's what I really sell my partnership packages, my sponsorship packages on, is the fact that we can bring guests along, we can do a corporate day, get them on the grid, show them around the garage, things like that, and that's just not possible in the current situation. I mean, like I say, I've lost a couple of smaller ones that are sort of for race weekends, things like that. But my loyal sponsors have stuck with me over the years. I'm very, very fortunate. In fact, I had now a conference call earlier on with the guys at Candio Vision earlier, and it's just trying to keep in touch with them, keep them up to date, and obviously one eye looking towards next year, which, do you know what, I think will be even more difficult. Sort of seeing the damage of what's happened this year.
Yeah, it does look that way, mate, to be honest, I must admit. And you've been quite vocal on Twitter, I've noticed, about, and I'm fully with you, actually, about, circuits not being able to be open to the public or open to sponsors, operational staff only. Is that something you stand by? Because I am actually with you on that, mate. There's so many things that have gone ahead and you just think, that does not make logical sense. And I don't want to go political, but you're in my eyes, you've been right. And no one wants this to spread, do they? But it doesn't make sense, some of it, does it?
You know what, mate? I think the most annoying thing for me is there's no consistency with it all. So, we're not asking for saying 50,000 people coming to the track. If we could limit the numbers down slightly, but we're in like hundreds of acres of outdoor space here. And it's the fact when zoos are allowed to open, theme parks are allowed to open. These tracks have invested a lot of money, as have the teams. There's a lot of people's jobs and livelihoods on the line here. And, we've got to look at it realistically here. I mean, the majority of the grid, without sponsors or backers, we're not going to be racing, which means the cars don't operate, which means the team doesn't operate. And there's thousands of jobs on the line. And, deep down, I'm a touring car fan. That's what I grew up. I loved going to watch touring cars. And I think from the mental health side and things like that, I think it's really important that people can do what they love, but in a safe, controlled environment. And I think, the likes of Brands Hatch and Silverstone and all the MSV tracks have done a really good job. And they have been allowed to have guests and spectators at other events, yet the following weekend at the exact same track with probably the same guests, we're not allowed to have any amount of guests. And it's frustrating. I do bite my tongue sometimes, but sometimes, it's frustrating when it's all of our jobs on the line.
Yeah, it is. It's bizarre, mate, isn't it? Absolutely bizarre. It is, but like you say, you put it to bed now, and I was fully with you on your tweets, mate, because it is just weird. But it doesn't matter to me now because it's, I don't rely on sponsors. I just do my job in the TV compound, but it will have a knock-on effect. If there's no racing next year, I don't have a job, full stop. And that's the way it is, isn't it? So it is something to think about. But listen, I just want to ask you one last question. And you've swerved it massively because I'm sure I did say it. Mate, that car of yours was the fastest I've ever seen it. It was like green off. At Snetterton. What had you done to change it? You were like 2 or 3 tenths off the fastest. I'm sure of it. I'm sure you'd like was it 58.1 or something I seen in it? I was like, what is going on? And then you went green. you went green something, and then you got across the line, and then you were gone. What went on?
I got really excited. No, how it is in these games. You're continuously developing a car and trying things. Sometimes it's a bit of trial and error.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a lot of thoughts that go into it. But I've now had 18 weekends with this car now since coming back with Team Hard in 2019, and we've tried loads of stuff, and it's not for the want of trying to try and make this car go fast. And in that, was it race 2, wasn't it? I just threw a few ideas at it. We just chucked a few little things at it. Nothing. Like, we weren't trying to reinvent a wheel. It was almost tickling it, which makes it even more frustrating. A little bit of camber, a little bit of damper clicks, a little bit of toe on the little bits and pieces. Like, we're not talking massive stuff here.
Yeah.
And it just started getting quicker and quicker. And then we had oversteer in the car.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's how you need a front wheel drive car to have oversteer in it, which is fine.
Yeah.
And
just so, Jack, just so people know, mate, so oversteer is the rear of the car moving around and turning in better for you.
Exactly, yeah. Turning in too good is what I'm going to get to.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I will let you crack on.
The team manager was actually my engineer that weekend, and we were both getting quite excited. Like, this is good. Like, the car's good. And at that point, we came over the line, and he was like, "Mate, green, brilliant sectors like you just mentioned. I'm glad you saw it, by the way."
I watch, mate.
And I obviously was just still excited as I went into turn 1, and we had the standard oversteer that we'd had every other lap. It went a little bit further, went onto the curb, and here comes my driver excuses, which I've got plenty of them. I actually should write a book about this sort of stuff. It'd been wet and damp across the course of the week, and it was a bit muddy. It's my fault for being on the curb, which then dragged me, literally, my left rear wheel onto the grass as the curve ended, and as soon as it hit the grass, it just went straight round, like hard right, and probably one of the worst places for it to happen at Snetterton. There's no runoff, and it was one of those ones, as a driver, you go, I can't save this. That moment when you just realise there's no saving this. And I was gutted for the boys and girls of the team. It was horrible, and I thought that was day done. I went to the medical centre and had my concussion tests, things like that. And I came back, and there was about 20 guys on my car. It's like a swarm of ants that come across my car, and what a job they did to get that car back out. And it was pointing dead straight as well. It's a testament to them guys.
I can't believe, I've driven obviously for Tony's team at Knockhill, and we had an engine change late doors in race 2. It wasn't just an engine change, actually. It was really bad damage, and they got the car out for race 3. Even Tim Harvey went, that's finished for the day. That I couldn't get my breath, because obviously the races are closer together, aren't they, because of the light. It was amazing. Fair play to them. They don't give up, do they, actually, them boys and girls?
But they had like an hour and a half, 2 hours maximum, and by the time the car came back, it was probably even less than that. And you know, the way I think they operate is brilliant. You know, they all work as a team, and you know, I don't think people sometimes realise that even if you're fighting for 25th, this championship's hard. And you know, the boys and girls that work behind the scenes, they work just as hard, if not sometimes harder than other people. You know, late into the night, early mornings, not much sleep. I've been a mechanic the other side, so I sort of appreciate it even more, and that's why I think maybe after the accident it hurt me as well, not physically, but you know, I was sorry to them for causing the damage, because I know the amount of hard work it goes into making that car look nice every time it goes on track. But yeah, like you say, they never give up. They don't know the meaning of giving up and throwing the towel in, and they worked flat out. And I mean, what a job! Yeah, the car not only got onto the track, but we took up our grid spot even though it was at the back.
That's unbelievable, mate. Fair play, and I always say that about Tony. You know, it's just an operation that he's a survivor, and you know, and sometimes you just have to be in there to be in for the result, don't you? And he just gets the car out and makes sure, you know, that you're in it, because he obviously believes in you massively. And that's my last question. I was going to ask you, mate, 'cause I know you're busy. Cupra next year, will you be there? You're obviously working hard for it to happen. Is it a dead cert? What's the sketch? Because I've seen the cars being built. Is that right?
Definitely not a dead cert. Look, totally honest, obviously when new cars get built, they cost money. And I'm very fortunate that Tony got me back out on the grid last year, and obviously this year as well. And obviously budgets and things like that, you know, cars aren't built on hopes and dreams. A lot of hopes and dreams go into these projects, but also you need some finances. You know, we've got to pay for it, and you know, I'm working flat out behind the scenes trying to raise funds. Obviously the team have their own partners as well, and we won't give up. But you know, as we stand here, no, I don't have a seat for next year. I've spoke to Tony. They want me to be in the car, but we do need to find the money to make that possible. But yeah, like you say, they're flat out full steam ahead. They've got one car already having the cage fitted. There's another car, I think, already been dipped, and the third car, I believe, is almost ready for that stage as well. So, I mean, they're doing a fantastic job, but obviously the new season comes around pretty quick, especially when obviously this year's condensed as well. So they're up against it, but I have no doubt after obviously what happened at Snetterton, they will work round the clock to make sure it's a possibility.
Yeah, and you do see, don't you, the new cars, the new shells seem to go well, don't they? New shells of touring cars, if they're right, they look right, they're going well. Even the Hyundais had good results.
Yeah, they do. I mean, when did the VW come out? Was it 2013? It was. It's my first year in touring cars, actually. Yeah. So yeah, it's done 7 seasons in the British touring cars. It's had its fair share of knocks and bumps and things like that, but it just goes to show. Obviously, at Snetterton in race 2, we still was able to unlock a little bit of pace. However, it gets more and more difficult to find that sweet spot. So we keep finding it slightly, and then sort of going off to the right, and then coming back to it and going off to the left. And yeah, it's difficult, but I do think obviously with the brand new Cupra Leon next year, I think the team will be in a good place, whether I'm driving it or not. Obviously, I'd rather be in it, but I wish them all the best, obviously, either way.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, mate. Last question: who's going to win the title?
Oh, you put me on the spot there.
Yeah, boy.
Do you know what? I think the weather's going to play a big part.
Yeah. What's the weather looking like?
A bit like that, you know. It's a bit hit and miss. It's depends which forecast you look at. I'm hoping for dry weather. Yeah. Although I do tend to go all right in the wet, but just consistent. I'd like it to be like you rock up, which I'm sure all the championship contenders want as well, by the way. Rock up and just we can crack on. But I think if it's warm enough and dry, I think it's Colin's to lose. Yeah. I think that BMW is so strong in all aspects. The only thing will be if it's very cold and slightly damp, can it switch its tyres on? And that's when the likes of Dynamics with a Honda and Dan Camish, or an Ingram or a Butcher even potentially, can come back into the mix. But if it's British touring cars, it can happen. Yeah, I think we'd be stupid, wouldn't we? Someone like me who's stupid would say it would be definitely somebody to win it. Well, look at Dan Camish last year, mate. He was odds on, wasn't he, with what, 2 or 3 laps to go? Oh no, yeah. And then that happened. So it's definitely not over yet, and I'm sure Alan Gow's got plenty of things up his sleeve to make it exciting. Definitely, mate. He'll be getting his buttons out, won't he, and pressing the ones to blow brakes up and blow engines up, and getting you might win the championship, mate. I'm still confident. I'm still going for it. Don't you worry.
It'll be you and John George, first and second.
Have you got the Chevrolet?
I'm in the Chevy. Yeah, I'm going to come out for the last round just for a crack.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, listen,
amazing.
I'm going to let you go, mate. I know you're busy. Thank you for talking to us, mate. Stay safe, and I won't see you at Brands, but I will on my screens when I'm looking at stuff, mate. So good luck, and I hope you finish it well.
Thanks, guys. And yeah, hopefully everyone enjoys the show at the weekend.
Oh, top man. Nice one. Cheers, fella. See you in a bit, Jack. Right. So, Jack's gone. Wicked stuff from Jack. Really cool. Like he says, you know, they've done a great job at Team Hard to, one, keep him out there because it costs a lot of money. And I know Jack hasn't got the 100% money that you need, so they've done everything they can to keep him in that car, and obviously his sponsors Candio Vision and everybody have really helped him out, so fair play. I like to see that, and that just shows you how much it means to these people to stay out on track and race the cars. So I'm really impressed with that. It's really, really cool. Right, okay, I want to give somebody a ring who we've spoken to before, but it's not about her, it's about her partner. So let's see if she's around. Might be dinner time, actually. Or tea time. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Hello.
Yes. Excellent. Right. Abbie Eaton, you're being recorded. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's like a PPI claim, isn't it?
I know. What do you want from me?
Right. Okay.
I didn't do it. Whatever it was.
I said, I hope she answers, because she'll probably be having a dinner or a tea, but I think it'll be tea where you're from.
Yeah, tea.
It's the same. It's the same as me, mate. Firstly, how are you? How are you diddling? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad. Just had a really chilled day today, which has been pretty nice actually, because I've been flat out the last few weeks. So making the most of lockdown 2.0.
Ooh, very nice.
Well, I can anyway.
Oh yeah, exactly. What have you been up to? Were you busy work-wise?
Yeah, just different work, kind of jobs here and there, and preparing for next year. So loads of conference calls and all bits and bobs like that. So yeah, hopefully some exciting news over the next few weeks. That'll be wicked.
Ooh, wicked. Right, enough about you. Your partner Jessica, who I was very vocal about. I thought she did an amazing job at Snetterton, and I know she was quite nervous beforehand because we'd spoken offline. But how proud of her actually, because she was just did the right thing, didn't she? She did everything right.
Yeah, and I think she probably shocked a few others, or surprised a few others as to the kind of pace she had out the bag. I mean, she did a race the weekend before in the, I think the BRSTC Club Sport Championship, but that was actually the only race she'd done that year. So, you know, in terms of, you know, race rustiness that we can all get from not being in car, to jump into the British Touring Car Championship and, you know, through practice one to be up, I think she was like 20th or something like that. Yeah. And then, you know, each time she went out would just claw another position, you know, further and further up the grid. I think she did a wicked job. And, you know, she's very much like me and then probably like, you know, the rest of the other racing drivers, that we're all very, very hard on ourselves. Yeah. And, you know, when you look at her pace in comparison to position she finished, actually her pace was higher up than positions. But you and I know, you know, the race one, you just got to stay out of trouble. And, you know, she wasn't quite switched on with like getting the most out of new slicks and cold tyres. Yeah. So I think first few laps she'd end up kind of dropping back a couple of places, and then she'd find a groove and try and get back up the grid. But you know, it all counts race by race, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And there was a lovely picture of you two, and I think you took it. It was a selfie on the grid, and so you would have been one of the last people that she seen. And how did you think she like got on with the nerves of things? Because I know as a newbie, the last thing you want to do is go off on cold tyres and look like that person, because it doesn't matter if you're male or female or whatever. When you're a newbie, it's a bit like, I don't want to make a show of myself. But she looked pretty confident and just got on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I know definitely in race one she was a bit nervous going into that, because she'd never driven the touring car in the wet or in damp or any conditions other than nice dry conditions. So, you know, she'd obviously qualified quite well, and to go into the first race sat on the grid, you know, even that outlap to get heat into the tyres, you know, you could just see the colour had kind of drained from her face. And to be quite honest, I would be worried if she didn't look like that, you know, going into those conditions. And you know, first few laps, once she got the kind of nerves out the way and got heat in the tyres, and you know, she forgot about it. And the rest of the weekend, she was just enjoying herself. And you know, as the weekend went on, the radio messages got more and more relaxed and more jovial, shall we say. You know, to start off with, it was yep, copy that, yep, right, yep, you know. And then at the end of the weekend, she was like, yeah, you know, chilling out a bit more.
That's wicked. And was Jade Edwards at all pivotal in giving us some info as well? Because obviously she'd driven the car beforehand. I don't know how much those guys talk, but obviously you and Jade are friends. Yeah.
There was a few things. I think Jess was just, obviously it's so hard to get these things off the line well. So I just said, just go and chat to Jade, you know, just to see what she did. I know obviously she stalled in one of her races, did Jade. So I said, just go and ask her what she did and don't do that.
Great advice.
But no, so Jade offered a, you know, helping hand through it all as well. And, you know, before her last race, you can imagine, you know, Jess has gone through her entire life wanting to do this. So, you know, before she went out onto the grid for her last race, she, you know, was a bit emotional and just thinking, you know, she said, she's like, I can't believe I made it and I can't believe had this opportunity. And I texted Jade, I was like, oh, come over and go and have a chat with her. So they shared a little moment before Jess went out for her third race. And yeah, it's just nice. It's nice that them two can share that experience together as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's so cool. I love that. I love the story. It's brilliant. And the pandemic has been horrendous, but at least we've been able to see some new drivers in a good car. You know, at the end of the day, it wasn't a car that was going to be really hard to drive, because if she'd have been put in something else, it could have been really difficult. And they're a very professional team, and the whole team, actually, Adam Weaver and everyone, I think they've done, it's been great that they've supported new people coming in. I think that car could have just been sat there and doing nothing. Do you know what I mean? So it is great. Actually, just while you're on, Abs, what's the sketch with you? Can I ask anything? Are you looking to do touring cars? Has Jess made you think, oh, shall I have a go with this? I mean, obviously I don't want to know any details because we've never spoken, but would it be something you want to do?
Again, ever since I was little, kind of touring cars, V8 supercars, anything kind of touring car related has always kind of been on my radar. But, you know, the budgets that are involved, you know, to get into touring cars, and it's not as though you could just string it together and do 1 year. To be competitive, you need to be in it for at least 3 years, really. Yeah. And, you know, in my brain, in terms of a career path, I kind of wrote it off because I just thought it's too difficult to you know, get into and stay into and then earn money from. So that's why I kind of went down the GT route a bit more. But in terms of the racing that I love, sprint racing, you know, trade-in paint, that kind of stuff is where I thrive. And that's why I really enjoyed when I did the little bit of rallycross that I did. Yeah. So yeah, something touring car related would be definitely on my radar, but yeah, I know how much hard work goes into getting on the grid in terms of raising budget, and and unless I win Euro Millions or you know, we get some money together, then probably not in the near future, but I'll never write it off. And those BMWs look pretty good to me. Yeah. Hint.
Yeah, I was going to say, that third one sat there. Imagine me squeezing myself into that. No, it is an exclusive for you. I
will fight you for that.
No. It's getting announced tomorrow. I'm driving it, the third one.
What, when?
At Brands Hatch.
No, you're not.
No, I'm joking.
No.
Wicked. I'm glad
I was just about to come round your house and kick off.
Full on kick off.
Dick up and be like, excuse me, Dick, what's going on?
Hey, the last thing you'd want to be on is witness past and present, getting a slating. Some girls just come around and battered O'Neill. Yeah. That's the usual rules round here, actually.
Probably deserved it, though, let's be honest.
That's fair, mate. To be fair, if it's not my sister, it's my mum battering me for something. Wicked. Listen, Abs, I will let you go. Send my best to Jess and Jade if you see her. And yeah, hopefully we see you out in something racing. But I would love to see you, Jess, Jade, out in a touring car again. It would be great, and especially yourself doing something.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, it'd be great. Be like the Spice Girls, flat out.
That sounds wicked.
We'll get Mel C in one. Mel C's going to drive the BM.
She's the ringer. Bring the ringer in.
Don't you call my sister that ever again. Right. I will catch you soon, Captain, and all the very best.
Cheers, Paul. See you later.
Nice one. Thank you, Abbie. Bye, mate. Bye.
Bye.
Wicked. All right. I just thought it'd be better. Not better. Sometimes you can speak to drivers too much, and I just like to hear from somebody that knows them quite a bit and would also say something maybe that the driver wouldn't, because you can ask questions to drivers, especially Jessica, who's like, she's such a lovely girl. She's very modest as well. And I knew Abbie would tell us how it was, so I thought that was quite cool. That was, wasn't it? Sorry if I keep looking down. I'm looking at my phone, just because I've got people that are hopefully going to get involved in this, so I'm just making sure that they're on time and stuff. Let me see. I was actually going to give somebody a shout, but I wonder if he's going to be around actually. Do you know what? Shall we give him a ring? It'll be a bit early doors. No, do you know what? We'll leave that for a second, because otherwise it will become a bit of a pain. Right, okay. Got me notes. Let's just talk a bit about Snetterton. I know we've spoken to a few guests about Snetterton already, but I just want to say how I thought it looked and what went on. But first of all, I think Colin Turkington, who come away with the lead of the championship, was just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, what that guy did at Snetterton was, I just didn't have a rear-wheel drive car down as being on pole. And the lap that he did was absolutely amazing. And it was a different qualifying format, but it really, really worked out better for the rear-wheel drive cars, I thought, because the whole of the qualifying session was just about who could switch the tyres on at the right time and be in track position. And in that final qualifying session, Colin did it amazingly, and it's what you'd expect from a multiple British touring car champion. So he did amazing. But I'd seen him the week before at Goodwood, and him and his wife Louise, I'd never seen Colin so relaxed. He'd had a terrible weekend at Croft, scoring hardly any points, and I just thought, last thing I'd want to be doing really is going to race a car at Goodwood, because my head wouldn't be right, and I knew he had another championship to try and win. But Colin is a racer like all of us, and yeah, it shows how different he is to me. I just like to put my head down and feel sorry for myself, but he didn't. He went out and he really enjoyed himself. I spoke to him quite a lot at the weekend, socially distanced of course, with masks on at Goodwood, and I just caught up with him a couple of times, and he was just so happy to be out there, and I just felt like he's never lost his love for the sport. But I think it was a weekend maybe that it just looked like he was doing exactly what he loved to do without the pressure. And he had a great weekend. I think his teammate had a bit of a crash, but in the one of the races. But he did a brilliant job in the races he was in, and he looked like he had fantastic fun. He just looked so relaxed, and I think it was what the doctor ordered. So in that quali session, he's poled it by quite a bit from Jake Hill, who did an amazing job as well. But then he won the first two races, and Ingram just couldn't get. Ingram was P2 and just couldn't get close enough to attack like he normally does early doors in that Corolla with Speedworks and Toyota, because if he'd have got past him, I think it'd have been hard work for Colin to maybe react back to him. But Colin must have had a mega game plan, because he got them fronts warmed up and they didn't lock up being rear-wheel drive. They got the fronts working well, and then Ingram just couldn't get close enough to have an attack on him. So two fantastic wins for Colin. I got down here. I think he scored the best points I think that I've seen anybody score for a long, long time. Yeah, so what did I get him down as? 60 points he scored over the weekend. 60 points. You see big 50s usually, but 60 points, two wins, and a third place. Was it a third place he had? I think it was, wasn't it? He had 3 podiums, which was just unbelievable. Yeah, so 2 firsts and a third. I just thought it was amazing, but he was just so committed and didn't put a foot wrong all weekend. Fantastic starts. Kept his powder dry in the third race, which can be the downfall of you sometimes, but then finished third. I think he had a bit of help because there was a bit of contact in front with Butcher and Ingram, but he just did an amazing job. And I think that I had him down after Croft as a bit of a, this could be really difficult for him now, but he really is in the pound seats now, and he goes to Brands Hatch with a 9-point lead, but carrying 60 kilos obviously, but the rest of them are as well. And I think that looking ahead to Brands Hatch, it's going to be about the weather, like you've just heard Jack Goff say, so I think it'll be really interesting to see how they all go about their business. Right, on to Tom Ingram. He went in there really with his tail up, didn't he? Qualified second. His strategy was quite interesting. I think he had warm rear tyres on the car for the last quali, and it was all about the tyre temps and switching the tyres on. When we say switching the tyres on, just making them operate in their operating window as quick as you can and getting the best out of them. It's a long lap around Snetterton, and they can cool down the straights, but he had the warm rears on, got the fronts up to temperature, which is easy to do in a front wheel drive car because all the energy goes through the front tyres. Got him up to speed, qualified second. He had a lot of weight on as well. I thought it was a great effort. He had 2 second places, had that little altercation with Jake Hill, where Jake gave him the position back as well, which was fair play to them boys. They sorted out. I know they're quite not aggressive, but they're rivals then from a long time ago, so there was no quarter given, but fair play to Jake. He dropped off and let Tom Ingram back through. But then what happened in the third race, Ingram was looking like he was on for a top 4, and ended up trying to get past Butcher, didn't he? And I think Butcher got pinged for it, I think, wasn't it? Which it was I haven't seen all the onboards, I've only seen it once, but the last corner he went for a move, and it all got a bit messy and tangled up, didn't it? So that's how much the championship means to Butcher and him. But he ended up finishing 8th, so a bit of a shame there for Tom, and he lost a few points there. But he goes into Brands Hatch 34 points behind the lead. So let me just get rid of that, not now. So yeah, he's still in with a shout, but I just think it's between Sutton and Ingram, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll see how he gets on with 42 kilos going into Brands. So yeah, like I said, a bit of a shame with Butcher. Butcher was I love Butcher to death, actually. He's a great racer, but he was quite aggressive, actually. I've seen him hit the back of Adam Morgan as well, a couple of times. I think Morgan had turned across the front of him going into Palmer's, which is the left-hander turn 3. And he gave him a bit of a headbutt there. So Butcher is a lovely guy, but I wouldn't want to race against him because he gives it out as much as you give it to him. So yeah, he's very fair, but when he gets going, he could give you a bit of a headbutt. But there was definitely no malice, for my opinion, meant from Butcher to Tom Ingram and vice versa. So I'd be interested to see what Jeff Allen, the driver steward, thought of the whole situation and how he applied the penalty. But yeah, it was game over for Tom in those first 2 races when he couldn't get past Colin early doors. So it was a shame that we couldn't see a race between those two, but Colin was gone by then. It just shows how strong that BMW is, and in those conditions it worked well for him, and Colin did good. But yeah, Tom was great as well, but I think he's just dropped away too much now. Unless Sutton and Turkington have a disaster at Brands Hatch, I just cannot see it. Being a front wheel drive car that wins this championship. But it's touring cars, like Jack Goff said, and I wouldn't want to say yeah, it's definitely going to happen, so you never know. But Sutton, on the other hand, he had that is a good weekend really, 5th, 3rd and 4th if you were trying to fight for a championship. But when Colin Turkington, who's your direct opponent, smashes out a first and a 3rd, it's a totally disastrous weekend, isn't it? And Sutton's car just didn't switch on, like we said on the TV coverage. Me and Tim were saying it depends what car turns up at Brands Hatch for Sutton, to see whether he can win the championship. Because if he turns up with the car that was at Snetterton, I don't think he's got a chance, if I'm being honest, because we know how strong Colin's 330i is. The BMW is a strong car, but the Infiniti just didn't seem to really switch its tyres on, or just didn't really seem to go anywhere. And as good as Sutton is, 5th, 3rd and 4th, he's brilliant, like I said, but really just couldn't really put the pressure on to get right to the front. So interesting. He nearly got turned round, actually. He turned in with Oliphant and they touched, and I've seen he had full lock stop on, and to get away with that in a rear wheel drive car, I think it was the start of race 1, I couldn't get my breath how he held on to that. So it could have actually been a lot worse than it was, and he's only 9 points behind. And then there was contact with Smiley, and Smiley looked like he was braking down one of the straights after turn 3. I don't know if there was a yellow flag out or something. Sometimes you can I'm sure Smiley's a left foot braker, so he might have been tapping the brakes to make sure that he had a pedal that was going to actually stop him for the hairpin. But it was just a bit weird. I don't know whether he lost speed as well, but it looked like Colin got past and then Smiley shut the door on Sutton and Camish and whoever else was behind. But I mean, I might just be looking into that, and I don't think Smiley's not particularly friendly with Colin Turkington, so I don't know what that was about. If it was anything, it could have just been a break. Could have just been checking the brakes. So we'll see anyway. Camish, on the other hand, the best of the Honda FK8s all weekend. Can you believe that? An FK8 Honda, I think he had the best results of any FK8 Honda, and it was a 6th place all weekend. That's the best result. The Hondas just couldn't, except for Jay Kill, who's in an FK2, an older car, they just couldn't switch the tyres on. Michael Crease, I seen on the telly, was saying on the onboard that he just couldn't switch the tyres on. That's why they were lacking speed, because everything about that car, the aero, the engine's powerful, the Honda Neil Brown engine, and it's a good chassis. It's one of the best out there. Obviously, it's still in the championship, but the best he could get out of it was a 6th, and it was 3 6s, which is not a good omen, is it? But he just lost out massively in the points. Qualified 5th, which was a good effort. But yeah, I just didn't understand what went on there. So a real shame, actually, with what went on there, because I really did think that Dan would. I was hoping that there was going to be 4 of them at least battling for the last day of the championship. So yes, it was a shame. But yeah, he'll go in with 48 kilos into Brands. Like Jack said, I'm with Jack actually. If it's changeable, tricky conditions, you might see what happened at Brands Hatch GP last year, but we're on the Indy circuit this year. If those front wheel drive cars can switch the tyres on really quickly, I think it could be game on. And Camish, all that could happen was, Camish will go flat out like the rest of them, but he could actually be, win the first 2 races, while the other 2 lads might have gone on the wrong tyre or struggle with slicks on a damp surface where the front wheel drive cars will be okay, and they could have a nightmare, and it'll be coming out. I'll tell you where it'll be coming out of. Clearway's the last corner. In a rear wheel drive car is great in the dry, but if it's damp or slippery and you get a big slide on, and the fronts are up to temperature in a rear wheel drive car and they've got good traction, they'll get underneath you every day of the week, and it'll be the run to Paddock Hill Bend. It's going to be fascinating what happens, actually. It's be so interesting. But yeah, so Camish, Ingram, and Sutton and Colin. That's what I think about them with what they've done at Snetterton. But yeah, I mean, any of those 4, they deserve the championship. I think Butcher that Silverstone crash has destroyed his chances, if I'm really honest. He's mathematically still in it, but I don't think Rory will be right in there, to be honest. I don't think, unless the 3 of them all crash into each other and then Rory wins the races, then that's the only way I can see it working for him. So yes, a bit of a shame for Rory. Motorbase's done a great job with that new car. To have a new car straight away and in the pound seats, a bit like the BMW when it come into it last year. So yes, that's the title contenders. And Rory actually had a good weekend, to be fair to him. I think he was, I think he had a couple of 4ths, did he? I can't quite remember. I've got so many notes here, but yeah, Rory did actually do cracking, didn't he? And he was he 3rd in the last race? He was up there all weekend anyway. He was top 4 all weekend. He did a great job. But yeah, that was hard work for Rory, I think, that weekend, and having contact with Tom Ingram as well. But right, okay, listen, I am not going to speak to Colin Turkington, but I'm going to speak to his partner, Louise Turkington. Louise Turkington. So let me get her number and let me give her a shout. Louise is just like proper lady. Colin's rock, I would say. I actually changed the name in my phone.
Paul O'Neill, how are you?
Hello, Louise. You're being recorded. I always say that to everybody. It's like a PPI claim, but I just don't want you saying something horrible about Dan Camish or someone and you think I haven't recorded it.
It's like you're Davina McCall. You're live on air. Please do not swear.
That's exactly what it's like, except nobody will watch this.
And I am known to let the old blooper out. So.
Oh, would you know what you could do for me then? Do you want to have a quick swear? Because then we can put an age restriction on it, and then everyone's like, "Oh my word, we'll have to watch it," and like click through a load of things on YouTube.
I'm sure with you in control and with the reins in your hands, Paul, there'll be a few moments that will require sleeping anyway.
Oh, don't. Oh, well,
I told you to keep it clean.
I will do. And listen, Louise, thank you firstly for coming on board. The one thing I'm always conscious of on the run up to a championship decider is that the drivers must get absolutely bombarded with press requests, people, you know, being nice and wishing them luck, but sometimes you have to protect them, don't you? And you actually, what is your role with Colin? Because a lot of people will see you on the grid, you know, as part of the team and as part of Colin's entourage, because basically you actually look after him flat out, don't you?
Well, Colin and I often laugh because maybe, you know, to people that aren't on the inside, they don't really have a clue what I do, and they call me Colin's chief cheerleader.
What? That's a bit disrespectful.
If I took it seriously, you know, it would probably break my heart, but like, I don't do anything for recognition, so we sort of just laugh about that. But to put a job description on what I do, I really don't think you could. Sometimes I say to myself, what will I do, you know, when I no longer want to serve Colin?
Yeah.
Because how can I package up what it is that I do? But I sort of try to put it under one umbrella.
Yeah.
And I think it revolves around performance and every aspect of the driver's life that impacts upon performance. So that gives me a huge advantage because I live with him. I go to bed with him. You know, I know when he goes to the toilet. And I see the bad days, but I'm also very fortunate that I get to experience the good days too. So I think it gives me a huge advantage, and hopefully that gives Colin a huge advantage because I observe everything and I know him so well, so I can step in and, you know, maybe diffuse some situations or take all the distractions out of his way, resolve them, sort them out, and allow Colin to just focus all of his energies on the sport. But, you know, it does revolve around so many things: his diet, his injuries in his body, his health, his time and schedule on a race weekend, his health for like things like, you know, now these later race weekends. I mean, this is just a very random example, but there was at Oulton Park, I think it was podium of race 3, and the temperatures had really started to drop, and he'd worked so hard out there on the track.
Yeah.
And, you know, I see him on the podium, and I'm immediately thinking of the next race weekend, and we can't afford him to catch a chill. So I'm sort of giving him the eye, and I'm like, I've got the coat and the towel ready to go around the back of the neck. But yeah, you know, I wouldn't want to give away everything that I do to help Colin, but we just work so well as an awesome team. We are the Colin Turkington enterprise, you know. It really is just the two of us. And yeah, we're very, very lucky that we work so well together and hopefully complement one another. Yeah,
definitely. And I've seen a massive difference in Colin as a driver and a professional since you've really, you know, got involved business-wise and enterprise-wise, like you say. And he seems a bit more relaxed, I think. And I think that he can concentrate on what he loves, because if he's like a driver, if he's like me, I don't mind the media stuff because that's what makes the world go round. But sometimes you've got to pick and choose, and you've got to pick and choose right, because it can really burn you out. And I think for me as a driver, and you've not asked me this, but I'm going to tell you what I think, that, you know, the autograph signings and everything, they're great, and that's what it's about, and the fans are fantastic. But what they don't realise is you just do not have 5 minutes to yourself sometimes, do you? And it's controlling that environment. And a lot of people they don't have somebody like yourself who says, listen, this is what we're doing and we stick to it. And he's done ever so well, hasn't he, lately? You know, I know you've been around all of his championships, but some of them you've actually just been, I suppose, looking after the kids in the garage early on, haven't you?
Yeah, so 2009, I think then my role was more just the psychological side, you know, because I couldn't physically be hands-on. We had like a 11-week-old baby or something. But I think that was, you know, that was when it was clear to me that we could both work really well together. 2014 then, I was still working. I went back to work. So I was juggling my own work, being a mum, and, you know, helping as much as I could with Colin. And it was when that championship came to fruition at the end of that year that, you know, I decided I can't do all of this. And the most important thing is Colin. And, you know, that was our bread and butter. So I said, look, let's just go together and push on through this as a package. So it's been from the end of 2014 that it's been my main focus as well. And, you know, I think we had to just be really bloody honest and see where the strengths and weaknesses were with everything that we were doing, and most importantly with Colin. And it's nothing to be ashamed of that a lot of the media and the interaction with fans takes more out of Colin than other people. You know, I think it was just being honest with ourselves that that's nothing to be ashamed of. Let's just put a plan in place that helps mitigate that. And you know, he is just absolutely flourishing. But it's been a combination of many things. You know, he's struggled with his health, which I believe he came quite open to you about, which was 2015. And it's just taken a long time to get on top of that and actually then fully apply himself to his sport. But, you know, the kids are a bit older now, and, you know, life isn't so difficult because you've got to, you know, give respect where respect is due. Colin hasn't just been a professional racing driver through all of this. He's had to be a dad. You know, we've had to try and bring up children in the midst of the chaos of BTCC. So, you know, I think just over time you become a master, don't you? You master what you do, and he's doing that so well.
Do you know what? That is a very good point. And, you know, I always think of Colin still as a young guy because he looks so young. And, you know, I know you guys and you've got kids and the boys are sound, but it's still in times like this, because you don't know if you'll be racing next year, I'm assuming. Nobody knows if they're going to have a contract next year. So all that's going on in your head. And then you've got to raise a family as well. And I just couldn't imagine, you know, what it's like, because it's a bit like my sister. She has a manager that is her partner, and sometimes it's great, isn't it? But sometimes it's like it's 100% of your life, I suppose. And do you find that? I mean, you do an amazing job, but at the same time, it must affect you as well.
Well, yeah, it's not a job for us. It 100% is our life, and it takes over your life. It isn't even just a seasonal thing. It really does take over your life, and it's quite hard to explain to the extent, because it does dictate every thought, it dictates every action, it dictates every decision. I find it gets to this point in the season when it, you know, before the finale, that I have to really keep myself in check, because I'm sucking in the emotional burden of raising a family and you know, dealing with our sport. But I don't have the husband to vent it to, because it would be really unfair and unprofessional of me, I suppose, to try and, you know, detract from what Colin's trying to do. So I find at this point I certainly have to keep myself in check, that, you know, I keep the main thing, and you sort of sideline your selfish needs
Do you know,
from your husband,
Louise,
until it's all over.
Louise, that is such a great point that I have never ever thought of because of my selfishness for the sport. I have never ever thought of that, and I know you haven't got immediate family that are on this island, have you? So that's that. Do you know what? That is absolutely nuts. And I was sorry, I didn't mean to ask you that much of an in-depth question, but that is something I've never thought of because it's sport, and I only know you through my profession, and you guys know the same. You just don't think of that personally, do you? That is nuts.
Well, it's just another layer, I suppose, of this sport and of trying to excel at what you do. You know, I am a self-confessed obsessive when it comes to sports psychology and athletes and what way they think and how to bring the best out of them and nurture them and you know, coach them in a way too, because you got to provide tough love. You can't just be the mother figure. You have to be the sort of sensible, smart, professional side as well. But yeah, you know, I mean, I don't make any secrets of it. If someone asked me, I would happily be honest about that. But yeah, you know, I think everybody that's associated with a professional sports person, any woman or partner, would maybe feel the same way. But I maybe take it to the next level because I'm so bloody competitive.
I know that,
you know, I really want to protect Colin as best I can.
Yeah, exactly. But I know how competitive you are because me and you have ran the Great North Run for Sporting Memories Foundation, and you know,
of course.
Yeah, and I know how competitive you are because we talk a bit when we were doing the running, but it's mind blowing because you know what it makes me think now. It just makes me think how I just never took racing seriously enough, and that's why I was never what Colin is, and he's verging on being the most successful touring car driver that's ever graced the UK, which is just unbelievable, isn't it? Oh no, turned her off. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, Lou, we've had a. Oh, actually, you're back. Sorry,
Are you there, Paul?
Yeah. Do you know what happened then? I've had to start my engine up because I've had this light on so long it's just tried to get rid of itself. But anyway, we don't do fantastic TV in Paul O'Neill land. We just do let's see what happens. But yes, yeah, so I don't know how much you heard of that, but I was just saying it just reminds me how much I just didn't take racing seriously enough. And the game's changed now, isn't it, with the youngsters coming on board? They're really on it now and fast and switched on psychologically.
Absolutely. You know, people maybe think that we have like a rivalry towards the other drivers, but I can wholeheartedly tell you, Paul, you know, I have nothing but respect towards, you know, your Dan Camishes and your Ashley Suttons and your Tom Ingrams, because those guys are performing incredibly well, and it is so tough out there. It really is. The schedule of BTCC, the demands on the drivers, they're juggling the commercial element as well as the media element as well as the driving element, and it's so difficult. I always say when I'm trying to get people to understand the BTCC, I tell them that these drivers work so much harder than the Formula One drivers have ever had to work.
Yes.
And yeah, you know, I have so much respect for them, and they're doing, you know, everybody's doing a really good job, and they stepped up the game this year. It doesn't get any easier. Perhaps people from the outside may look at Colin and think he's just turning up each year and he continues to be a contender, but you know, it couldn't be farther from the truth. He's having to work harder every year. It gets harder every year. Even the intensity gets deeper year on year, and that's because everybody's turning up and doing a really bloody good job.
I think that is the point, isn't it? That he is, every year he's won it, at the end of that year I just think he's gone up another level, and his preparation. When we do Q&As and things, all he talks about is preparation and, you know, his homework, and, you know, every eventuality is covered before he gets there. And that, like you say, that is a massive thing. And I was going to ask you, actually, I seen Colin go to another level. I don't think I can remember the last time someone in recent years scored 60 points on a weekend when they'd had the worst weekend possible at Croft. Seen you guys at Goodwood, and he just looks so relaxed. I was like, is he either given up or he knows that he's going to be fresh as a daisy when he gets the Snet? And I thought, I wouldn't have even wanted to see anyone after Croft. He was happy as Larry at Goodwood.
I think, unfortunately for Colin, he has me as a wife, and by hook or by crook, he was going to Goodwood. I had busted my backside to line up the drives for him. Oh. And, well, you know, the Andrew thing came, I suppose, as a result of me speaking to Andrew, running a line on the Mini for the other driver. But I just had a really gut feeling, Paul. You know, even when the invite came in about Goodwood, I knew it was going to mean 3 weekends back to back. And normally I would object to that, especially as we get towards the sharp end of the season. But I just had a real feeling, and it was genuinely such a positive experience after Croft to just strip away all that preparation. Now, I'm not saying the preparation isn't important, because it is 100% the foundations, but it was just wonderful to strip away the preparation, strip away the planning, strip away the schedule, strip away the expectations, and just throw Colin out of his comfort zone in a car and send him out to have fun. And he was so honest. You know, he said that he went around the whole weekend with a big grin, and he did, and it was wonderful. And it was almost like, you know, when he confessed that he was only a human, someone said, "Just, it's all right, mate, I don't believe it, just hit Control Alt Delete." And you know, in a roundabout way, Goodwood was that Control Alt Delete. So yeah, it was just lovely to see him having a bit of fun, because this season has been so intense, and you know, the back-to-back weekends, the condensed period of time. It was just so good to invest back into Colin and just let him have some fun. And rather than take from him, I think it was just so important to just invest back into him. Yeah, for sure. And just to make it clear, the Andrew that you were talking about was Andrew Jordan, who owns JRT, who Colin drove a Lotus Cortina for. That's who you were on about, wasn't it? Which was it was indeed, yeah. Which was great to see, because Andrew Jordan and JRT produce fantastic historic cars, and Colin really did look like he had some fun. I was in the race, I think that Colin was in the St Mary's Trophy, so I know firsthand how just fantastic those old cars are, and he did a cracking job. And it was great to see the drivers so articulate about the sport they love, because usually you've got loads of grip, you've got loads of pressure, and you've got loads of questions to answer, but you've got nothing like that, have you? You just go out, have it large, come in with a big smile on your face. Yeah, and then all just sort of compare and contrast stories.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, everyone's like, can't wait to see each other. Usually it's like, I don't want to see him, I don't want to see them, I hate them, they did this to me. But last question, Lou. I thought Colin had an onboard at Snetterton, and I've seen him celebrate a championship less than he actually celebrated the race wins at Snetterton. That looked like a hurdle jumped. He looked like he really enjoyed that weekend. Yeah, he was satisfied, and you know, I think that's what Colin does it for. You know, it isn't for the records, it's not for recognition. He does it to be satisfied that he's delivered the potential of what he had. And Snetterton was like the ultimate delivery, and I think he knew he had to bounce back. You know, we all knew the pressure to bounce back. There was no doubt
doubt about that, but we also took some comfort in the fact that we knew the narrative had to change. You know, it couldn't just be the same storyline. Mm-hmm. So we accepted that the narrative had to change and just looked at it as an opportunity. Mm. But I was so happy for him. You couldn't possibly, even the people on the fence couldn't have not been happy for him, because it was royally what he deserved after the Croft situation. Mm. And I think what you saw was the shift in the balance of the power in the championship. That's what he was celebrating, was he'd got back on top, he's got back in control. And you know, the car was just amazing over that weekend, and they rolled out in a place that was so on the money, and that was really important, with only the one practice session, which again is going to be important at Brands. But I think it just confirmed to him that how he handled Croft, how he dealt with that mistake, the preparation that they'd done, the planning that they'd done, was all right. And that, you know, that breeds confidence, doesn't it?
Well, that goes down to the saying that I've heard you and Colin say about those that work the hardest win. Is that the right saying? Because that's basically, he's just typified that. You guys typified that by what I've seen at Snetterton. I mean, it is. It's like you say, it's mentally just fantastic how he goes into Brands now, and how, you know, the preparation's the preparation, but is he pinpointing anybody in particular? Is it Ash Sutton, or is it all the people who can mathematically win the championship? How does that go, and how would you sit down with him and say, do you actually sit down with him and say, you know, what are you thinking, Colin? Do you think we should do this, this and this? Because I know you are involved massively.
I think, you know, we have the fortunate position whereby we're always together. So, you know, I don't ever question him and want him to provide an answer. It sort of just organically happens. You know, we had so many organic strategy chats, or he, you know, he banters some ideas off of me. Mm-hmm. It's all really quite organic. But what I do know is that we're not going to be looking over our shoulder. We're going there to hunt. We're not going as the hunted. We're going to hunt. We're hunting points. Mm. We're hunting the maximum score. And knowing that if he delivers that kind of a weekend, nothing really can defeat you. Mm. At the same time, I think the one thing that maybe we are looking over our shoulder is that roller coaster that is inevitable. Mm. So you can't really take anything for granted. But I think it's step by step. You know, the prospect of becoming champion is huge, but you sort of just break it down. You know, start with now, and ensuring that the package that arrives to free practice on Saturday morning is as close to optimum. Yeah. Chip away at practice, chip away at qualifying, and then reassess. But it'll just be race by race, Paul, and you know, assess where everyone is, and the weather. You know, we're sitting. My goodness, we must have checked the weather ridiculous amounts of time, and it's only Tuesday, so that will definitely play an impact.
What do you think about the weather? What's it going to be like? I have actually not looked. Jack Goff was just telling me it looks mixed. There's different results for the weather.
Yeah, and you know, like we've been watching the grind and the roads from last weekend, and observing when it rains and how long does it take to dry, and you know, even just out on the roads, things like that. And it's not drying. The surface anywhere around here, and even Silverstone, I'm sure you watched British GT at the weekend. Yeah. The pit lane was still soaking wet by the end of the day. So I think it's going to be very difficult to dry. At the moment, I think Saturday was looking like it could be dry, but there's going to be rain Sunday morning. So I can't imagine them going on Slicks Race 1 at this stage. Yeah. And the touring cars will be the first race on the track. So we won't have the luxury of Snetterton, where the Ginettas and the Porsches sort of, you know, dried the circuit. Yeah. But yeah, you know, I think there will probably be more wet running than slick.
Yeah, that's quite in-depth stuff, that is, Lou, to be fair, and I know that's how you work, so that's why I wanted to speak to you, because it wasn't just to take sometimes you can just talk to drivers too much, and I'm not saying Colin is one-dimensional, but a lot of the drivers are, and they don't tell you a lot, whereas Colin actually does tell me quite a bit now, but it's just interesting to see it through someone else's eyes, isn't it?
I thought you were only calling me because you like the cheerleaders.
I just, you know me, I'm a bit
partial to a bit of pom-pom, eh?
I know I'm a bit of a rascal, but I like to think I'm very respectful of people in general. I've never ever heard that before.
Hopefully it's given maybe another angle to the story.
It does, and you know what? It's tea time or dinner time or wherever you Southerners call it, even though you're Northern Irish. So I'm going to let you go. You have been an absolute diamond as usual, and I really appreciate you coming to chat to us, Lou. And send my best to the boys, and I'll see you virtually at Brands Hatch. And good luck.
Okay, you too. Take care, Paul.
Cheers, Lou. Bye, mate.
Bye.
Alrighty then. Whoa, that was interesting, wasn't it? I just love these chats. They're all so interesting. If you see me waving at someone, sorry, it was my mate Woody. He was walking his dog past me drive. So yeah, sorry about that. I was waving at him when I should have been fully concentrating on the camera. I just seen him out the corner of my eye. Louise Turkington is exactly how she has just come across. Methodical, analytical, and well switched on, and I think it's so cool to speak to really good switched on strong women, and that just shows you British touring cars is open to everyone, and that's another reason why I love it. I know Jen helps out Tom Oliphant, his partner, so Jen helps out quite a lot. I don't think it's as in depth as what Louise does, but she's there and she's strong and she's there for Tom and a lot of other people as well. I know Hannah does a lot with Jake Hill, his partner. A lot of the women that are involved might be behind the scenes a bit more than Louise and Jen are maybe, but they do a good job in showing us what the drivers do. Abbie Eaton with Jess Hawkins at Snetterton as well. So I think that's cool, isn't that? It's wicked. We are very fortunate. British Touring Cars is open to everyone. Right, okay. Dick Bennetts. Oh my word, it's 5:30. I'm trying to get hold of Tom Ingram, but he's very busy and he hasn't got back to me. So I'm going to speak to Dick Bennetts pretty quickly because I just want to ask Dick a couple of things, actually. So let's give him a shout. So Dick Bennetts, team owner, team principal of BMW Motorsport, WSR, who run Colin's car, and Tom Oliphant's.
Hi, Paul.
Hello, Dick. You're being recorded, mate. So I'll just let you.
Oh, yeah.
No, don't.
No swearing.
Exactly. I've just actually been speaking to Louise Turkington, and I told her the same. And it was like I say to everyone, it's like a PPI claim, you know, and they say you've been recorded.
Yeah.
How are you, sir? You must.
Louise Goodman, so Louise Turkington.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
I thought it was just interesting to speak to Louise and see what she was thinking of things, and she had some really cool things to say, actually. So Dick, you guys again are in the title fight, and I really won't take a lot of your time up because I'm dying for a wee. I've been sat in my car for an hour and 11 minutes. But you guys are always involved in the title fight, known to have, you know, the best team on the grid, great car, great personnel. But this is one of the weirdest years and weirdest battles that we're going to see, isn't it? I mean, going into November and having your last round of British Touring Cars, your engineering prowess, mate, is going to be called upon, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Normally in November, we used to be in Macau in the sunshine doing F3.
That's true.
So it's a bit hard to relate Macau to Brands Indy in the middle of November. So, yeah, it'll be a tricky one for sure, Paul. And it's probably the biggest thing that goes through my mind. I'd hate us to lose the championship because of the weather.
Yes.
And there's a couple of things we can't control, and one of them's the weather.
And that's what that's what I was talking to people about. I mean, it's quite mixed, the forecast at the minute. And if people don't know, Brands Hatch is actually a microclimate, isn't it? It's in a gully, so has its own kind of weather, doesn't it? But is it advantage?
Well, the other thing there, it could be foggy, so that will really put everything under pressure to get through before it gets dark.
What would happen in that circumstance, Dick? If it was foggy, and would the
well, from what I understand it, we cannot run till the marshals can see from post to post, flag post to flag post. So we just have to wait till the fog clears. But then, that's a tough call for Alan or Ian Watson. How do we get round it? Because at the moment we're starting at, pit lane opens 12 minutes to 10. Normally we're all having a coffee at that stage, talking about what the day's going to bring. So to be racing at 10 a.m. on a Sunday, mid-November, I think the track will probably still be damp anyway, which can then bring in some, issues about safety and, warm-up laps and all that sort of stuff. So it's not going to be easy, but then you can say it's the same for everyone, but some cars might gain more than others.
I was going to ask about that, because if it's greasy and you have to go onto slicks, is that advantage front wheel drive?
I think it would be, yes. So we've got Dan, Cam and Tom Ingram both in front wheel drive, and then you got and Rory, but to be honest, I know the press release said 5 cars, but Rory's 63 points behind. And the best we've done, Colin got 60 points at Snet. The best we've ever done is 61 points out of a max 67, which, would you believe, was in 2013, our first year with the BMW 1 Series at Croft.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That came from Jamie, our PR man, not from me, Paul. I can tell you about roll centres and springs and dampers, but Jamie informed me about we got 6, because I said that was probably our best at Snet. He came back 24 hours later and said, no, you got 61 points back in 2013.
Well, that must have been a fastest lap as well or something, because I've got Colin down as 60 points and the best ever weekend that I can remember he's ever had, or anyone has had in a long, long time.
He's had 2 60-pointers, one at Snet and one back in 2014, I think, at Alton Park, if I believe Jamie.
Yeah, he's usually switched on with that, isn't he, Jamie O'Leary?
There's those statistics I don't really follow that close. To me, it's the next race. How can we do the best? So so Rory's 63 behind. So to be honest, I think it's down between Cole, Ash, Dan and Tom.
Yeah. Do you really still think that, I mean, I can only see it being between those 4 if Colin and Ash get together or they don't score very well, but that could easily happen in the first race.
You mean get together to help each other, or get together and...
What do you think? But it is, though, isn't it? Because if they have a disastrous first race because of the weather and it's a call on the tyres, which we've had before. We've had fog at Brands before, one of the first rounds. So, they could come... What I was thinking, Dick, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, a rear-wheel drive car on slicks on a damp surface will have a nightmare on the exit of clearways, maybe, where a hot front slick-tired car but may be able to get underneath them, and the same maybe on the exit of paddock or something like that. No,
it's the problem is we had it early last year, didn't we, at Brands, that I think we went out on slicks, and then what you've got to do normally is, if you're on the front 2 or 3 rows, you've got to follow what the other championship contenders are doing. And at the last minute we switched to wets, and it was a wrong call because someone came from way near the back, took a punt on slicks, and they won.
Yes, exactly.
it's a fine line. If you're on the front 3 rows and you put slicks on, then you get pushed and shoved around with guys who have got wets on.
Yes.
But the guys with wets on, if it dries out, they'll be in trouble because the wet tyres will fade away. Yeah. The degradation on a drying track with the wets is quite high. So it's a hell of and basically it's toss a coin, which is not, to me, a right way of going racing. But, you know, we've got to go racing. There's only a certain time limit on the daylight hours we've got. So, yeah, there'll be some tough decisions made on Sunday.
Yeah, I would not want to be in your shoes, Dick. But to be fair, mate, you're the best man for it, and you've been around, and you, like Colin, you've been involved in numerous championships. So, you know, if you've got to make the call, you've got to make the call. Like you say, it's a gamble, isn't it? And that's
what we sometimes do. It's probably easier at Brands Indy, but somewhere like Brands Grand Prix, we normally leave it to the driver because they can see the track conditions out the back, whereas we can't.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas Brands Indy, we can see the pit straight, we can walk out the back and see the bottom straight.
That's very true.
And the trouble is some tracks will hold the dampness, some will dry fairly quickly. And I think Brands Indy is one that will hold the dampness, and especially, you know, 10 o'clock on Sunday morning.
And it's another problem, isn't it? If you're on the pole or on the inside, you can actually have a nightmare with loads of wheel spin and be pulled towards the pit wall.
Yeah. I've often said to my guys that you're better to be second or fourth on the grid, not first or third.
Yeah, that is very true. I think I've had some of my best results being on the outside when I've not been too far.
Because you're uphill and you can run downhill a bit to go to the inside. It's a bit like Silverstone. I remember Silverstone National, if it's a drying track, you're better to be second on the grid because that's the outside line into Copse.
Yeah.
Whereas pole is on the inside and it's a damp line.
That's very true, yeah. That is very true.
Yeah, so there's so many things you have to look at, but the trouble is if you're on pole, you're on pole. You got that one valuable point, but you may well lose 6 points by the time you get to turn 1.
Jeez, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's why you do what you do, Dick, and I just talk rubbish and say what I see or what I think I see.
No. Well, we've got full complement this weekend. We're bringing the crew from Car 3 as well to help out.
Oh,
we've got Nick coming down, Nick Foster. He's pretty good and experienced as sporting director. So yeah, we've Carl, our new team manager, he's doing a good job. So we're all going to be in contact with each other, obviously, you know, the lead up and with both drivers.
Yeah, so it's going to be all hands to the pump. And do you know, I was going to ask you, Dick, and you're the perfect person to ask this. We've never run really at this kind of temperature before, and I think Snetterton was the first time we really seen it. Maybe a bit of Croft at the end of the day, but Snetterton looked like it was all about switching the tyres on and maybe sticking a bit of rebound in the damping just to make the tyre work harder. Is that something that you've found, or is there anything that you've come away from Snetterton with and thought we could try that at Brands Hatch if the temps were done?
I can't say it if it's going out public, everyone can hear, Paul. You know the rules.
I don't even know what rebound does in a damper, so you can say what you want.
It's yes, the 5-minute break between Q1 Q2, and I have to say that was one of my suggestions at the team's meeting to try this, you know, Q1 Q2, but that was when it was going to be in the middle of summer, not at the end of October. But anyway, I think it's a good system to have. I think it should be encouraged for next year. Puts a bit of excitement in. But yeah, we made 2 quick little changes on Colin's car between Q1 Q2, and that helped to turn on the front tyres. So we have to pursue that more in the free practice on Saturday, trying it out to see if it works around Brands.
Yeah,
because you're dead right, Paul. It's the key is getting those tyres, but also it's a problem for the front wheel drive to bring the rear tyres in.
Yeah. What would you expect, Dick? Sorry, what would you expect, Dick, from a front wheel drive Honda to do with those rear tyres, because in a front wheel drive car, you know yourself, they're just trailing, and the last thing you want them to do is lose temperature and grip. And when you see cars,
I can only assume that's what happened to Matt Neal in Q1 at Snet. He lost the back end coming down into, I still call it Russell's, but I think it's called Murray, is it?
Murray's, yeah. It used to be a
Murray's,
flat out sixth gear corner, that, didn't it?
And then you come down through the gears to go left. And I think he got Coram into Murray's, and I think Matt lost it because his rear was cold. And I have spoken to 2 other front-wheel drive drivers, current BTC guys, and they say the cold weather's a nightmare for them as well. So whilst we have problems with the front, they have problems with the rear.
It's a complete mirror opposite, isn't it? I mean, Pat, I would never in my life want to go down Paddock Hill Bend at middle of November in a front-wheel drive car. No, thanks.
Well, it's, we've got what we've got. It's great to still have, 27 races, considering we started on, what was it, the 2nd of August.
Yeah.
So, and if this Indian summer hangs on, although the weather forecast we look at keep changing, that it might not be as cold as like last week when it was down to, I think we were down to 1 degree overnight.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Whereas, today it's been, I think it was 15, 16 degrees.
Absolutely crazy. It's just, that's going to be it, isn't it? It's going to be the engineering prowess and how people hold themselves, I suppose. And how impressed have you been, Dick? I know that you're a very respectful man. How impressed have you been with Ash Sutton and what they've done with that car?
Ash is, I remember Ian Harrison telling me way back when Ash drove the MG at Croft. He said he's, a very, very talented driver.
Yeah.
So, Ash is very good, and I think he can drive a car that's quite soft.
Yeah.
Whereas all I can compare to is, Aidan Moffat's doing a good job, but in the same car, Ash is quicker.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes with Tom and Colin, Tom can be very close to Colin. So, yeah, I mean, we've tried a soft setup and, it's okay, but Cole prefers his standard setup. But this championship is getting so competitive now. We never used to change much between qualifying and racing a few years back, but now, in the last few race weekends, we're making quite big changes from Saturday to Sunday. So you need a car that's quick in qualifying, but then you need a car that will do a full race length that's raceable.
So, to me, it's amazing, isn't it, how the level has changed? Like you say, even with a wet and a dry car, a good car, you wouldn't actually change that much, would you?
No, but now we have to get the best out of it because it's become such a competitive championship. I mean, even back in 2015, when AP joined us, Andy Prio, he said mid-year, he said, bloody hell, I can't believe how competitive this championship is.
Yeah.
And there's a triple world champion in, BMW. So it's now got more competitive with the balance of performance much closer. So, no, it's getting harder to overtake because all the cars are pretty equal. So it's, as long as, to me, there's not too much aggression on Sunday because that can, again, destroy someone's championship.
Yeah.
We saw what happened last year in race 2. Cole was turned around. But then what happened in race 3 to Dan was, then it turned back, as we said after, it was karma paying us back.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that was the thing, wasn't it? It looked like it was game over, done and dusted. Actually, on that point, Dick, what do you fear about FK8 Hondas attacking you or holding you up, or Chilton, Josh Crease? They're not that.
We'll see how many good friends we got on Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning.
This is
how many Collins got.
This is British touring cars. But the thing is, Colin's always been a clean driver, so he never seemed. This is where it matters now, doesn't it? But something I did see at the weekend at Snetterton, and I don't know if you could answer this for me. There was a lot of people asking about Chris Smiley rubbing up Sutton the wrong way, giving Colin an easy ride, but also breaking down one of the straights. It's rubbish, that, is it?
Also, an absolute load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Smiley made a mistake, because I've replayed that several times, Paul, and he made a mistake and had two wheels out on the dirt, and I think then he realised he had lost the place to Colin, but to get back in the train, because his front wheel was alongside Colin's rear, I think he dabbed the brakes to tuck in behind Colin.
Ah, right, because I wasn't too sure whether he was just tapping the brakes to, pump the pedal up, but I thought there's either a yellow flag out or he's got a long brake pedal, because like you say, if the momentum was lost in the train, you'd be slowing down to get in the gap, wouldn't you, I suppose? That's good.
You could easily lose five car places. This is the trouble. Once you make a little mistake and get two wheels in the dirt, whatever, we've had it happen to us before. Suddenly we're running in 5th place, and then suddenly the driver's on the radio, he's back in 10th place.
Yeah.
And that's one tiny mistake. So, no, I think Ash has got it wrong there, and, he might have to be careful on Sunday of the Hyundai.
Well, I just found it bizarre because, I know Smiley and Colin are not particularly friends, even though they're from Northern Ireland. I know that because I thought there's no way he would do that, because he's a very not selfish, but he's a typical racing driver. He doesn't care about anyone else.
They're all like that, aren't they?
I don't know. I was never like that. I helped Colin in 2009 by firing Matt Neal off at Druids. Oh dear, mate.
Well, that was another case. I remember 2009.
Yeah.
When Giovanardi could win.
Yeah.
And suddenly race 3, was it?
Yeah.
The last race, where Matt had weight taken out of his car, he suddenly seemed to be going slower, and he's going slow because he had Colin behind him.
Yeah.
And he was letting Fabrizio catch up to attack Colin.
Oh, yeah.
So Colin used his own initiative up at Druids and gave him a little bit of a love tap, but he didn't give him a tap hard enough, because Matt came back out of Druids and whacked Cole in the left rear.
Yes, and he had a
Cole,
bad toe, didn't he?
Cole did half of that race with 13 mil of towing on the rear.
Oh.
So the car handled totally different from left-hand corners to right-hand corners.
That is crazy.
And unfortunately, it was the left rear that got hit, so most corners are right-hander, so he had massive problems trying to hang on to the car.
If nobody has ever seen that race, I was in that race until my cam chain snapped. Right. I watched it, all of it unfold. It was in the Integra. We were on reverse pole, I think, with Matt Neal. And I remember watching the car come towards me to go onto the Grand Prix straight. So it had turned, I think it was turning left before it got to me, because it was crabbing like an absolute nightmare.
It was, yeah. I know. I remember, I think it was Tim Harvey spotted it straight away. We knew it, we could see it, and I thought, that's it, game over. But, fair due to Cole, he just adapted his driving style and did a fantastic job. But then, Matt was playing the team player, so that's a concern that could be this weekend, because Matt's not in the running, but Dan is. So, but then, Jake Hill in the FK2 is doing a fantastic job. So, if you look at the broad picture, we don't mind him being on pole.
Yeah, that's very true, actually, yeah.
Yeah, so the FK8 is a good car. There's, the BMW is a very good car. So it's all to play for, but unfortunately, the weather might be one of the, as long as we give the guys, Tom and Cole, reliable cars, competitive cars, and then hopefully the clerk of the course does his job as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's exactly it, isn't it? That's got to happen. But listen, Dick, I am going to have a wee, mate. I'm dying for a wee. So
yeah, no problem.
I am so happy you come on board and chatted to us. And everyone loves you. Everyone loves you, mate. And they love to hear what you've got to say, because you're a legend, fella. So I will... I'll let you go. Send my best to the missus.
I'm just part of the team. Yeah, I'm just a small part of the team. All right, matey.
All right. Thanks, Dick. I'll catch you soon, fella.
Cheers, Paul.
Cheers,
no
mate.
Problem. Cheers.
Bye-bye. Bye. There you go. so much time for Dick Bennetts, and it's great of him to come along. And like I say, I don't think, I keep looking at my phone because I'm trying to get hold of Adam Morgan as well. I'm dying for a wee. I'll try and quickly ring him. Do you know what? I'm going to go for a wee first. Oh my God, honestly, I need a wee. Wait there. Oh my word. Shut that door properly. Dick Bennetts, what an absolute ledge. Let's use some hand sanitizer. What an absolute ledge. So yeah, I love speaking to Dick because he's a proper lad, and he knows the sketch, and it's good to ask him about the different things technically and things like that. I'm going to lastly try and get hold of somebody who had a good weekend, but I just don't know whether he might be busy. I just want to ask him a few questions about the weekend. See if we get hold of him. So I'm going to try and ring Adam Morgan. I haven't really spoken to Adam much. Might not answer.
Hi, mate.
Hello, Adam. Listen, you're being recorded, mate, on a little thing. Can I borrow you for 5 minutes?
Yes, I've literally, no joke, just walked in.
Have you?
Oh. Literally. So, yeah, I've got dog, baby's being fed, it's manic. But yeah, I've just got in, mate, literally. But
right.
Yeah, no problem at all.
You're a good lad, right? Literally 5 minutes, mate, because I've just been saying that you'll be flat out busy. Firstly, I wanted to congratulate you on, I think, what has been an amazing season, mate. I'll be dead honest with
Thank you very much.
That I know I know everybody bores you to death about that Merc, but it is old.
Me.
You and the team have done amazing. I know you were a new dad this year as well, and you've got loads of stuff going on. But Snetterton, mate, just quickly, Snetterton was a cool weekend, wasn't it? What did you think when Ollie Jackson, of all people, who is like the friendliest Bigfoot man alive, come round the outside of you? Did you think he's defo going off? I'll just watch this.
Well, I saw him coming and I thought, right, there's no way he's going to make it all the way around. I'll have it on the inside for the next corner.
Yeah.
And he just kept coming and coming like, bloody hell, how's he going to do this? and then we went into turn 5, I forget its name, but he just hung it around the fair play. It was opening lap, cold rears, and I was like, yeah, good move. He stuck it, but I have lost some sleep over it.
Oh,
it's not something you want to go home to, having been overtaken on the outside at a hairpin.
Oh, mate.
And I've had quite a bit of stick from it from the lads at work.
I just thought, but it just summed you both up. Like, you're a good lad, you never fire anyone, and I thought that, I tell you what, if he gets round there, he's going to win this. Like, I think he'll win because it's a good car, that, and it's got a good donkey in it, isn't it? It's a good engine, that car.
Yeah, and I think Ollie said it quite well. After the race, he said he had his car set up to be pretty strong early on, and the first sort of 5 laps, he just disappeared. He just went, and then towards the end of the race, we had set our car up to be a little bit stronger, and sort of come on towards the end, and then last 5 laps, I was putting Ollie under quite a bit of pressure, but again, fair play to him. He defended brilliantly. He didn't over defend.
Yeah.
And then back was right up into Rory. He just drove a great race. But yeah, no, P2 for us was really good. And again, that whole weekend at Snetterton for us, I think showed the pace of the car. We were P2 in practice, P2 in the first quali, and come over podium. So yeah, it was a really good weekend.
Yeah, people don't realise how hard it is to get a podium in British touring cars these days, do they?
It is tough. Yeah, you've got to have a bit of lady luck on your side as well, but it's so, especially at the minute with the fact there's only one compound of tyre. It's you've got to be up there in quali right from the off, just to give yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And then last question, fella, what do you expect from Brands? You're going to give the car a good send off, and then who is going to win the title?
So Brands for us has always been a pretty happy hunting ground. Touch wood. Over the years at round 1, we've last 4 or 5 years, if we've come away sort of top 5 in the championship after the first round. So we're hoping to go there quite strong. Steve Farrell, my engineer this year, has really transformed this car back to its full potential. So, and like you said, we're determined to send the car off on a happy note. So hopefully we can do that with another podium, which would be lovely. And the championship, it's going to be mega. You know, it is going to be a proper fight. For me, you know, with his experience, I still think it's going to be Colin.
Yeah.
You know, I think it carries the weight really well, that car. And, you know, if he can qualify somewhere near the front, I think he'll just bag points and go from there. But it is going to be a mega last 3 races for the championship.
Yeah, very good, mate. Thank you. Well said. I think I'm with you on that. But I just want to say the reason that you've just been a bit late on trying to get something sorted with you, because I've waited until the last bit of the day. If there's any racing drivers watching, then let me tell you that Adam Morgan has raced in the championship for a long time, but he still packs the truck and loads the truck with the team. Is that what you've been doing today, mate?
Yeah, so there's been me, Norm and Tommy in today, so we've had 2 Arctics to load. And when I say me, Norm and Tommy, Norman's been on his laptop all day, so there's been me and Tommy. So there's 2 of us who've been loading the truck. So it's been pretty full on, but it's mega. You know, that's for me, because you know it's a family-run team. That's a huge part of it that I enjoy. So and normally I'd be driving the trucks, but we've now got enough truck drivers that I don't have to. So.
Well, that's
all right.
You're a good person for young racing drivers to watch, mate, because there's not enough of them these days. I think that they think they just have to turn up and drive, and it's not about that. And it's good to see, mate, that is still happening. And I bet your dad's well impressed as well. Bet he's not doing anything, is he?
No, he's not. No, he just sat there cracking the whip.
Hey, well, listen, I'll let you get off to your family, mate. Send my best to all of Sicily, and good luck for the weekend. And I'll catch you there, bro.
Nice one, Paul. Thanks a lot, mate.
Cheers, Ad. See you,
Cheers.
mate.
Bye-bye.
Right, literally, I said to him it'd be 5 minutes. It was about 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Just going to see if I got a message off Tom Ingram. Tom must be flat out. He has not messaged me back, and he's not read the message either, and he's not been on. Adam Morgan, sorry it's late, mate. He's just messaged me. That was cool, wasn't it? So yeah, Tom's actually, to be fair to Tom, he is not. Look, these messages we've had, probably can't see him, but basically that's Tom trying his hardest to get onto here for me, but he's very busy, man, and it's 6 o'clock. He hasn't been on his phone since 52 minutes past 1, so sorry that we can't speak to Tom, but I think we've got a great show. It's so long, and I'm so sorry, but that's the way it is. This has been making me anxious getting this done, because I just needed to get it done, and I've just not had time to do it. But anyway, it's been great to see you. It's been great to hear from our guests, women, men, strong women, strong men, family women. It's been cool, isn't it? I think for the final time this year, and I can't wait for the weekend, it's going to be awesome. It's Kisses for You.